Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. My name is Lisa, if you are tuning in for the first time, and I have been having sort of a rough week. It's just felt a little bit off. Nothing terrible has happened, nothing even bad has happened this week. It's just been one of those weeks where I've been feeling meh, like tired and low mood slash unmotivated, and just a week where if I had the luxury of no responsibilities, I would probably be spending the last few days curled up in bed with a book. And I can probably attribute this all to my time of the month. Yes, I am on my period. I got my period a few days ago, and that feels like kind of a TMI way to start this episode, but I do have a point that I will get to. I started my period on the morning of the full moon. And I'm calling this out because this is the third cycle in a row, or the third month in a row, where I have gotten my period on the day of the full moon. And one of my best friends had told me quite some time back that she had learned that the witches, the healers, the shamans, the medicine women, they're the ones who get their periods on full moons. So at that time I was like, oh, that's interesting, that doesn't really happen for me. And then just in the recent months, my cycle has shifted to align with the full moon. So I did some extra digging on TikTok, because if you go to Google and you ask this question, they are going to say that there is no correlation, obviously. But if you go to TikTok, where the people are talking about things, I was looking this up, and there were some astrologers who had been referencing the term red witch, which is basically the healers, the shamans, like I said, the medicine women, blah, 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 getting their period on a full moon, or their cycles aligning with the full moon. And like that's a theory or a myth or something that people have talked about for a long time. And this girl specifically had said that it is the healers whose cycles align with the full moon, specifically when they're going through an era or a journey of transformation, which I cannot speak to the validity of this. This is something I saw on TikTok, but that tracks for me, at least. So we're going to say maybe that's a possibility. But I wanted to talk about this because one thing that I have noticed, I'm going through this major, what I'm calling a health upgrade, and I've alluded to it a few times, and I'm still in the process. So again, we'll be talking about this soon. But one of the big observations that I've had through this process so far is that the more my body returns to homeostasis, the more my body is aligning itself to nature or the cycles of nature. So my period aligning with the full moon is one, but there's also like I've realized that I have started to intermittently fast. I've attempted intermittent fasting probably 2 times in the past, and it was just really hard for me, and it felt like force and like trying to make it work. And I was skipping breakfast and starting my meals at noon, and it just wasn't working for me. So it lasted a short amount of time, and then I went back to eating at all hours. But this time, going through this health journey, I have realized in reflecting back that my body has just naturally started to intermittently fast. And where I had been trying to skip breakfast, now I'm super hungry like early in the morning. Like I can eat breakfast at 9 and then I'm already looking for lunch at like 11, 2 hours later. So I'm eating a lot of my meals earlier in the day, and usually I'm done eating around 5 p.m. I usually eat dinner with my toddler around 5. And then after that, I'm not hungry. So intermittent fasting is another one. And then the types of exercise that I find myself craving, or that I find myself either engaging with ease or forcing myself, it has fallen in line with my cycle and at what stage in my cycle I'm at during the month. So that has also been an interesting observation. Like there are times in the week or times in the month where I go running and I'm excited to run and it feels really good. And then later where I find myself gravitating towards not running or not wanting to run, and then maybe like wanting to do yoga classes or something like that. So I had read about is it called cycle syncing? I want to say that's not right. But there are people who have started to sync their types of workouts with their cycle, and depending on what stage of what stage of their cycle that they're in. And I had read about that and it was like, okay, maybe I can try that out someday. And then now I'm feeling in my body, just as I have made more of an effort to connect in with my body and pay attention to what it wants and what it needs, I have found myself gravitating towards these different workouts during the month. So, yeah, it's just been a really interesting observation that when I've cut out all of the unnatural stuff that I was putting in my body, like the processed food, and I cut coffee and I cut majority of sugars aside from like fruit and stuff, and refined carbs. When I cut out a lot of the unnatural stuff, it's like my body is coming back to its center, and at that point my body is then beginning to align with the cycles of nature. So that has really been interesting. And all of this is a really long intro for what I want to talk about today, which is what I have learned about the wisdom of my body and how my relationship with my body has changed over time throughout this journey. So, when I reflect back to what my relationship with my body has been for the majority of my life, actually, you know what? I'll say post high school, because up until I graduated high school, I remember feeling really comfortable in my body and feeling really indifferent. I mean, maybe there were, sure, like some insecurities going through puberty and such, but for the most part, I was a very, very active and fit adolescent kid. I did karate for like 10 years of my life growing up. I swam, I danced, I did like a few different things. So I was always very active. And I think that just being active and having the level of body awareness that those sports taught me allowed me to feel really comfortable in my body. But college, things changed, my eating habits changed, alcohol, I mean, the typical things that happen when you move out, go to college, when you are in your early 20s and whatnot. So I would say that during that period of my life, one of the things that I want to call out about my relationship with my body is that I never really understood what it meant to love your body. Like for me, when I would hear people say, I love my body, I associated love. No, I'm sorry. I didn't associate. I confused loving your body with loving the way that your body looks. So when I would hear someone say, I love my body, to me that sounded almost arrogant. It was like, oh, I love the way my body looks. So I feel like I had this skewed understanding of what it meant to love your body. And that perspective didn't allow me to hold love for my own body, especially during periods of time where my body had changed a lot and I didn't feel particularly comfortable in my body or with what it looked like. I think that this is honestly a common confusion or a common misinterpretation of what it means to love your body that a lot of women experience, and this probably has a lot to do with what we are taught, what the media portrays, like all the things. I don't have to really explain. I think most people will understand. But overall, just in general, I did not love my body because I did not love the way my body looked. And I would also look at myself in the mirror and call out all of my flaws. I wish this and I wish that, and why can't this be smaller and why can't this be bigger? I think that a lot of women do that as well. Like you look in the mirror and you're super critical of the body in front of you. Another huge one was exercise. Like I would exercise for the purpose of looking a specific way or losing a specific amount of weight. And because that was the focus, when I didn't see the results that I was looking for fast enough, I would quit. And so my consistency with exercise has been, well, it hasn't been. It's been inconsistent. It's been non the consistency has been non-existent. I have spent the last decade exercising, but not in a way that was consistent and healthy for my body. It was just like spurts of motivation and then you quit, and then spurts of motivation and then you quit. And when it came to my relationship with food, I want to say I believed I had a good level of balance. I think my diet was probably just pretty standard. Like I made an effort to cook healthier meals at home, to buy healthier ingredients, and then I also would just eat whatever when it came to eating out. So diet I never really had much of a focus on, but I can say that I was not paying attention to what foods were harmful or toxic to my body, and I wasn't paying attention to how I could use food to heal my body or to just nourish my body in general. It was just kind of like I ate food because I love food and I love tasting food, and that was just that. So, in summary, my relationship with my body before was, I'll say, disconnected, and I didn't understand what it meant to love it. And for many years, I probably just had more of an indifference towards my body. It was like, I am my body, and I am equally as critical and judgmental of my body as I am myself, and that is just the way it is. And honestly, it feels like how most people approach their relationship with their body. And this can be things that we learn from our parents, this can be things that we learn just from the world around us. And when you think about how our society in general speaks about the body with a specific focus on what it looks like. Okay, so what changed? What created this perspective shift in the way that I view my body? And what helped me come to learn the wisdom of my body? There are a few things. One is somatic work. I've talked about this at length on this podcast, but those first few sessions of somatic hypnotherapy that I did when I went into a state of hypnosis or complete relaxation in the body, still fully conscious, and when my body started to release energy and shake without me shaking it, and laugh without me knowing what I was laughing about, and cry without me knowing what I was crying about, and my arms would lift because I could feel just the tension rising in my body. That was mind-blowing to me. I had no idea that the body held so much intelligence, that when I just gave it the space to heal, that it would know what to do. I didn't have to consciously think of anything. My body knew where it was storing energy and exactly what to do to release it without any conscious thought. That was groundbreaking for me. And that was the starting point of when I really began to understand or see my body as this separate entity that was incredible, or that is incredibly intelligent. When I went through my yoga teacher training program back at the end of 2023 going into 2024, although I didn't choose to become a yoga teacher, I took so much away from that. And that was the first time where I really started to see movement as healing, to understand the different yoga postures and how there are certain postures that are meant to release energy in your body. Like there are heart chakra openers and throat chakra openers, and how movement can be so intentional and how you can use movement to heal with the right intention. It was the first time where I stopped looking at exercise and movement as a way to mold and shape my body into what I deemed beautiful, and instead to use movement to take care of my body, to heal my body. And maybe that sounds so common sense. Like, I feel like I've heard people a million times say, yeah, I use exercise to take care of myself. But I think I wasn't ready to hear it until I was. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't ready to fully integrate that yet. It was like, yeah, exercise to take care of yourself, but then you still end up focused on what your body looks like. Like, this was the first time where it felt different for me. Also, my energy healing journey has been one of the biggest reasons for my shift in perspective of how I view my body, because it was through energy healing or through this discovery that I am an energy healer that I started to view my body as a vessel for healing, like using my hands as a vessel for healing. That has caused me to have a different purpose to care for my body. I need to take care of my body to do this work. I know that I need to regulate my nervous system, enable in order to hold light in my body. So that has been a huge shift, and I'll say the biggest reason for why I believe I've been able to be consistent this time around. It's a different purpose for caring for my body. And the last big change is just the spiritual journey that I've been on. I think that that has allowed me to view my body in a different light. Whereas before it was like, I am my body. Now I view my body as this, like I said before, this separate entity that is incredibly intelligent. It is, I am this soul and this body is my home. And because it is my home, the home that I chose for this lifetime, it is mine to care for the way that I would my own child. And whereas before I couldn't understand how someone could love their body separate from the image, now it's all I think about. Oh my God, I love my body because this body allows me to move through the world. These hands, these arms allow me to hold my child and hug my child, and these legs allow me to take walks outside and go running every day and just experience all that I want to in this life. It's like I have gratitude for my body. I have gratitude for every inch of my body that plays a role in me getting to experience the life that I want. Now it's like unfathomable to me to stand in front of a mirror and criticize my body, because it is the one thing that shows up for me every single day, regardless of how I nourish it, regardless of how much water I drink, regardless of whether or not I exercise. It's like, how I'm shocked at the condition it is in after 32 years of not considering it, of standing in the mirror and criticizing and judging. And all it has ever done is love me, shown up for me, to allow me to move through this life. Like, I literally had to pause for a second because just talking about my body and the way that it shows up for me almost brought tears to my eyes. That is, if that does not show you the shift that I have made in perspective, I don't know what does. Literally, it gets me emotional thinking about my body and how grateful I am for it and all it does for me. Okay, so what now? Where are we at now? If I could summarize my relationship with my body and how it has changed, it would be going from a state of disconnection to a state of connection. And yes, I mean connection as in coming back into my body. And yes, I mean connection as in paying attention to what nourishes me and what harms me, what my body needs, and caring for it. What I also mean is communicating with my body. So, this is a part where we're about to get a little bit out there, okay? I want to talk about how I have been communicating with my body, and through that communication, I have been letting my body lead this health journey that I have been on. And in order to do this, I need to tell you about my pendulum. So, if you're unfamiliar with a pendulum, it is an intuitive tool. It is a crystal, usually a crystal that hangs from a chain. I have an amethyst crystal and it hangs from a chain. And I learned about pendulums probably like maybe a year or two ago, back early on in my spiritual journey, listening to channel content and YouTubers and whatever, all of that stuff. I've heard pendulums referenced. So I was aware of it. I had an understanding of it, but it took me this long to pick up one of my own. And I think that it was important that I went through my whole mentorship program to really understand how to work with intuitive tools. Anytime you are working with anything in the energetic realm, I will just say, like, it is important to know how to work with these tools properly. Like, you should know how to protect your energy. You should know how to properly set intention. All of these sorts of things. So I had that sort of as a basis before jumping into using this as a tool. And what a pendulum does is it's a crystal that you hold and it will move in one direction for yes, mine will move in like a circle, and mine will move in a straight line for no. So you can use a pendulum for a lot of different things. I specifically use it for clearing and aligning my chakras, and I have also been using it to connect with the consciousness of my body. As I'm saying this, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting so deep in the woo on this podcast. But that is my life. That is authentic. So we're just gonna go there, okay? So I have been using the pendulum to connect to the consciousness of my body. And I just want to state for context, I believe that everything has a consciousness. It is a very shamanic belief that I have learned to believe that everything has a consciousness. It's kind of interesting because when I've talked about this with my husband, he's like, yeah, I don't know. But then at the same time, he's the same person who every time we've ever moved out of an apartment, he will like sit down on the floor and touch his hands to the house and just say, thank you so much, house, for keeping us safe and for putting a roof over our head. And he'll have like a whole little ceremony with the house, like connecting to the house. And if he ever kills a bug, he's like, oh my God, they have a family. So it's so funny because I feel like he intuitively believes that everything has a consciousness. But then when you talk about it in this way, he's like, I don't know about that. So that's just something funny that I wanted to mention. But I do believe that everything has a consciousness. That is something that I have come to learn in my study, and something that I have experienced myself, especially when connecting to the consciousness of my body. So I believe, when I say that I believe that my body has a consciousness, I believe that it is its own separate entity that I can communicate with. And I want to give you some examples of what I mean by that. So when I started using the pendulum, I would set the intention to connect to the consciousness of my body. And some of the first few things I did was I started asking it. I took like all the vitamins and supplements that I had from my shelf and I lined them all up, and I was like, okay, what do you like? What do you not like? Because we got a lot going on here and I need to really understand what it is that you want. And it would say yes or no or maybe for some of them. So that was really interesting. What was super interesting for my body specifically is I noticed that it kept all of the vitamins and supplements that were more natural. Like, I have curcumin. Is that Again, another word I can't pronounce. Curcumin. Looking this up. So, I'm going to butcher this. Curcumin. It is the active component, which is in turmeric, which is very anti-inflammatory. And I had bought it because I had heard that it had great things. And that was one of the things that when I was asking my body, what do you like and what do you not like? That's what it said yes to. And some of the vitamins that were less natural, it was like maybe or no thanks. And I went down like a list of foods that I eat very regularly and asked it what it likes and what it doesn't like. And again, it was like yes to a lot of the natural stuff. And some of the stuff, it was like, okay, we can have this sometimes. And some of the stuff, like the processed foods, it was like, no, absolutely not. No, thank you, never. And I mean, I'm saying it that way, but I would ask a series of questions to come to that result. It was like, okay, do you like this? No. Okay, can we have it sometimes? Also, no. So that's how that was taking place. I have been using the pendulum to track my progress. So asking what percentage or to what percentage is my nervous system regulated. So I think we started at like 10% regulated, and a month and a half or 2 months in, it's like 50% regulated. So I've been using it in that way. And what has been most fascinating is that once I opened that door of communication and said, not only am I asking the questions, but I'm also listening and I'm acting on the answers, my body has started to communicate with me in different ways. So, like bananas, I'll just give you like an easy example. I used to eat bananas all the time, probably like several times a week. We keep them in our house. They're an easy snack for my toddler. And so I would reach for bananas often because they're easy, right? I've never really noticed any sort of reaction to bananas. And after I opened this level of communication, I grabbed for a banana and I took like one bite and I noticed immediately I was bloated and I had a stomach ache. And I was like, oh my gosh, do we not like bananas? Do we not like bananas? And so I walk over to my pendulum and I start asking a series of questions. And it's like in every which way I answered, it's like, no bananas, please. No bananas. And so I stopped eating bananas. So it was this food that I had absolutely no idea was causing me any issues or that I was having any reaction to, because I think my body had just done a great job of just like continuing to operate and function regardless of what I was putting in it. But then when I opened the door and said, hey, I'm listening to what you need and to what you don't like, now it was like, okay, I'm going to let you know I don't like this. And so I stopped eating that. Another interesting thing has been as I am figuring out what to eat when I go out, right? It's like one thing to cook at home and to know, what I want to be including in my meals and what I want to be excluding, and finding meals that I like that are also properly nourishing for what my body likes and needs. And it is a whole different thing to go out in public or to anywhere or to a restaurant, wherever, and to try and find meals that kind of like fit within the criteria that you're looking for. So my body has been helping me to select meals when I'm out and about. And one really cool example is I went with my husband and my toddler to a museum a few weeks ago, and we stopped to eat lunch while we were there at the museum because we went kind of sort of in the middle of the day. And I was trying to figure out what to eat, and luckily they did have some options that were pretty healthy, but I was like, this is not enough for me. Like, I'm gonna need something in addition to just these vegetables. And they had like a whole section of soups, like ready-to-made soups that you could just grab and go and pay for. And I was like, okay, maybe I can try a soup. And so I would pick up a soup, stomach pain. Okay, not that soup. I would put it back. Okay, how about this soup? And I pick it up, stomach pain. Okay, not that soup. Okay, let me try this last soup. Pick it up, stomach pain. Okay, fine, no soups. And then I would keep walking and I found some like grilled chicken and I picked it up, no stomach ache. Okay, I'll go with that one. So it's like my body, I don't even need to taste it. I don't even need to put it in my mouth for my body to reject it. It's like it's telling me up front, we don't want this. We don't want to eat this. Talk about the level of intelligence required for that. I have also been taking the opportunity to communicate back with my body. For example, when we're out and about and there's not a lot of options, and I remember one time specifically going to this restaurant with my sister, and I was like doing the best I could to order off the menu based off of what they had, but I was starving. I was so hungry. And so I got something that I knew that my body doesn't like, but I was like, I have to have something. And I started to eat, and I take the first bite, and immediately stomach pain. And I was like, okay, body, hear me out. I understand, and I'm sorry, but I really need to eat something right now. I'm so hungry. So can we just like, like I need to eat something. And stomach pain went away. It was like, it was just using that pain as a signal to say, hey, we don't want this. But once I communicated back and said, hey, I'm sorry, but I have to have something and these are our options, the stomach pain went away. So it has just been really interesting to pay attention to the pain I'm experiencing in my body and to not just think of it as pain, but as a form of communication. So this is just a few examples of how my relationship with my body has done a complete 180 of how I have begun to understand the wisdom of my body, how I have become to trust the intelligence of my body, and how I am working with my body rather than always forcing against it, always seeing it as this opponent that I am trying to criticize into being exactly the way that I want it to be. So, talk about fascinating, right? This overall shift of coming home to my body has been not only eye opening, but like so fascinating to a point where it's almost unbelievable. Like I know at the end we got out there, right? I'm like full on talking to my body. I'm self-aware. I fully understand what that sounds like, but it's my truth. It is what I have been experiencing, having undergone this huge shift in perspective. So that is where I will leave you. Maybe just some food for thought, Some maybe I left you with some things to think about a little bit deeper or a little bit further. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you again soon. Bye.